Week 2 is all but in the books with just Monday Night Football to play and wreck our rosters. Rookies are showing up big. Injuries continue to pile up, but don't you worry. We've got it all figured out. Or do we? Welcome to Club Fantasy FFL. Welcome to Monday's Hangxiety, your ultimate Monday morning remedy for the highs and lows of fantasy football. Let's get into it. Good morning and welcome to Club Fantasy FFL. Welcome to Monday's Hangxiety. It is the Week 2 recap. I am your host, Gator J, with my two, I guess, cohorts, whatever you want to call them, at the One Hudsonian, Josh Hudson, at the Fantasy 5, Ryan Weisse. How we doing this morning, fellas? It's Week 2 and nothing has changed.
Ryan, the person, is doing great. Ryan, the fantasy manager, is not. He's in a bad place right now.
Right there with you. We are in the same boat.
Actually, no, I'm coming off a cold, so yeah.
My Lord.
Josh the person feels like shit, and Josh the fantasy manager ain't doing much better. So.
Yeah. In all honesty, though, I don't know that I could even do this show with Josh after our Scott Fishbowl battle this week, where I'm pretty sure I have the second highest score in the league, but Josh has the highest. So,
well, I will. Hopefully, I just need Barkley to show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this must be the Week 2 matchups for us. May be the Hangxiety matchups. Ryan and I are playing each other in our own, and I'm not going to brag about it, but I'm kicking Ryan's ass.
This was a terrible week for me, and I'm just going to throw Joe up on the screen right now. He says Travis Kelce has that silly goose in him. That silly goose is destroying my fantasy season, and I'm having major coping problems with it. So,
yeah, I want to bring him up here in a little bit, but before we do, let's pay a few bills. Come on, Josh. Pay these bills. I know you've got the money in your pocket. Go ahead and pay the bills with Trophy Smack.
Oh, I got the money in the pocket. That's hilarious. All right. Proud to talk about our sister site, Women of Fantasy Football, and their partnership with Trophy Smack. You can head over to trophysmack.com/WOFF. That's WOFF. Use that unique affiliate link and shop all their products. They have trophies, belts, rings, wall smack to decorate your prison-like office. You name it, they got it. And clearly I haven't purchased anything yet because my wall's still naked outside of my whiteboard up there. So, but once again, trophysmack.com/WOFF, WOFF. And from now until September 24th, so that is 8 more days, if you buy a belt or a ring, use code WOFF, WOFF at checkout and get yourself a free championship ring. These can be the customizable ones, the made ones, however you want to look at it. So buy the belt that Ryan has and get yourself a ring that Jay has. Look at that. So trophysmack.com/WOFF, WOFF. Start shopping today. Do it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Trophy Smack is partnered with the Women of Fantasy Football, and we get to promote it. I think that's freaking awesome. So we are off to a banging start. We haven't screwed up anything this week like we did last week. So I'm going to continue that trend. And Ryan, give me our weekly refresher.
Yeah. So we taking a look back at the scores back on Thursday night. The debacle that is the Miami Dolphins offense, which got a whole lot worse with Tua Tagovailoa sustaining a concussion. More on that in a moment. 31-10, Buffalo won that game. The new greatest show on turf, I think it's fair to say. The New Orleans Saints 44, the Dallas Cowboys 19. Cowboy Dak did not help that matchup. Tampa Bay outlives and outlasts the Detroit Lions. Jared Goff is not the person I thought he was, because Baker Mayfield is the person I thought Jared Goff was, but it's 20-16 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Green Bay with Malik Willis beats the Indianapolis Colts. Green Bay was at home in that one, 16-10. Jets beat the Titans in Tennessee, 24-17. Minnesota outlasts the Christian McCaffrey-less 49ers 23-17. Seattle comes into New England, pulls it out 23-20. Washington gets Jaden Daniels a win 21-18 over the New York Giants, the NFL's B team, if you will. The Chargers did what the Chargers were supposed to do in Carolina, 26. The Panthers managed 3 points of offense. Somehow Cleveland, interesting game here. David Njoku was already out. Evan Ingram goes out about 5 minutes before the game starts. So neither team has a good tight end. Cleveland pulls out the win 18-13 in a close game. It was actually pretty interesting to watch towards the end, but it was not fun to watch for 3 quarters. The Raiders travel cross country and win on a field goal 26-23. Shout out Brock Bowers. More on that later. Arizona just took it to the Rams. The Rams are in trouble 41-10. Pittsburgh, another ugly offensive output, but it doesn't matter when you're playing Bo Picks and the Denver Broncos, 13-6. Kansas City survives a little bit of controversy. Some would say they got by with a little help from the refs, 26-25 over the Cincinnati Bengals. And last night, in a game that was way closer than most thought it would be, Houston 19, Chicago 13.
Yeah, don't forget, if you are here this morning, don't forget to hit that like, hit that subscribe. We also have the super chats are wide open. So if you have pressing questions for tonight's game, don't forget that moves you to the top of the order. A couple quick notes that I had on this weekly recap, Ryan. Ravens 0-2 for the first time since 2015.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
crazy.
Interesting. Commanders, like you said, outlasted the dismal New York Giants, but they did it on 7 of 7 field goals.
Yep.
Nobody got in the end zone for the Commanders.
On a kicker that was not on our roster last week.
Yeah.
In my Fantasy Pros rankings, I went and deleted whoever there, Cade York. I forgot to see who they signed. I didn't even have this dude ranked, and he's the number 1 kicker this week. So something tells me I was the number 4 kicker ranker in Fantasy Pros in week 1. Something tells me I'm not going to be that high again in week 2. So,
all you're going to do is move him up. All you're going to do is move him up.
Or, add him to the list. Just put him on there, and things would have been great. So.
Last but not least, in a surprising NFC South, we all had it Atlanta Falcons, and the Saints have decided not so fast there, Arthur Smith. Thanks for leaving. We are now the Kings, 15 of 15 on scoring drives, whether it's a field goal or a touchdown, 15 of 15. Now, granted, we saw it last week against the Panthers, but I don't think either one of us expected this against the Dallas Cowboys. And they just decided, are they them boys still?
And didn't they say in the announcers this is 3 or maybe 4 consecutive 40-plus scoring outputs going back to last season for the Saints as well? It's something like that. So, and
I'll just bring this last nugget up for you. Derek Carr, or as they've started to call him over there on Twitter, the reincarnation of the Drew Brees, is only QB2. He's only QB2.
That's right. He's stuck behind somebody.
Fucking Mayfield is QB1, baby. just wanted to throw that out there. This is going to be a pro Bucks conversation today, by the way. Yeah. Absolutely 100% pro Bucks conversation. Let's get into some of the rookies here. 21st birthday shots, big games by the rookie. We want to say welcome to the league, Malik fucking Neighbors. Wide receiver 3 on the week, 28.7 fantasy points, 18, 10, 127, and a tutty.
That'll work.
Josh, how you liking that?
That target share, 67% target share. Holy crap. That is, I mean, granted, look, this was the matchup we wanted from him. He was one of my upside picks of the week. I said he would score a touchdown. He scored a touchdown. The Commanders' defense is god awful, but this is what they were mimicking in the preseason, right? I kind of interpreted it as, well, they just need to figure out how to build some chemistry between Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors. Either they're continuing that, or they just realize this is the only good piece of this offense, and we just got to throw them the football. So that's what they're doing.
Well, I put this on the show notes, so you guys know who this is. But Malik Neighbors with the 18 targets, the 3rd most targets by a rookie since 2000. The only other 2 to do it, OBJ with 21 and Puka last year with 20. Insane.
Impressive company.
Yeah.
Next on the list, some guy named Marvin Harrison Jr. Decided to show up and throw up 29 fantasy points. But he did all this in the first half of the game.
I'd say almost all in the first quarter. Yep.
First quarter, actually.
Wide receiver 1. It's a shame that he only has to play 1 quarter and become wide receiver 1 in this league anymore. 4 receptions, 8 targets, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. Ryan, surprised?
More surprised that, I mean, I guess when you run away with the game as quickly as they did, more surprised that he did nothing after the first quarter. But I'm not surprised by Marvin Harrison at all. I'm not surprised by my league neighbors. I want to rewind to something you just said, that it's crazy he only had to pay 1 quarter to be the wide receiver 1. I work on, for the first 4 weeks of the season, I update my like weekly projections to get my rankings into a better spot. And I am just shocked at some of the insanely low scoring we're seeing from every position this season, wide receiver included. I feel like we've seen these really nice performances, Rashid Shaheed, the Saints in general, and now we're seeing it from the rookies in week 2. But I do feel like we are still, and this is probably a symptom, Josh, of the fact that you bring up all the time, they're not playing these preseason games. And so the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season are the preseason. And I think it's going to be interesting. What we're seeing right now is likely not indicative of what we're going to see in October.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweet out the number of touchdowns scored in the NFL over the last 2 weeks. This year has been the lowest in like 8 to 10 years.
I noticed it, like I said, when I was going to get my fantasy rankings, like the drop-off happens crazy. You see these top guys, Alvin Kamara, just, putting in work. But then as you start to scroll down, you get to like RB10, RB15, RB20, and you're like, wait, that's all they've scored in 2 weeks? Like, It just doesn't feel right now. So my biggest surprise is your anecdotal point, Jay, that a guy can go out here in 1 quarter and be the best player at his position. So
yeah, I stumbled upon that. I stumbled upon
like that.
Nuggets every now and again. Tight end 3 on the week so far, Brock Bowers.
Tight end 1 in my heart. Fuck Travis Kelce.
18.8 fantasy points, catching all 9 of his targets, 98 yards. Brock Bowers. In a I guess a stunner of sorts, like you brought up earlier, a stunner of sorts going across country and playing in Baltimore at the 1 o'clock hour. Any thoughts on your Brock Bowers?
It's what you want to see
happen.
I say, not to toot my own horn, at least when I did my final check, I was the highest Fantasy Pros ranker on Brock Bowers, having him at tight end 6. And the long and short was, I knew there was going to be a target share. The offense deemed, the quarterback deemed, everything about this team deemed there was going to be a high target share. And if he's generational, we have been talking about Brock Bowers coming out of college for 3 years now. And then all of a sudden he goes to the Raiders and we're like, fuck Brock Bowers. I just felt like that was a mistake. It was a terrible overcorrection. And right now he's showing you he's the second best pass catcher on that team. But for fantasy, he's the best pass catcher because Devontae Adams is getting all the attention. So
yeah, the top 2 target shares in that passing offense right now, Adams at about 25% and Bowers just over 23%. So
exactly.
For everybody that was still high on Jacoby Myers after last year, whoops.
Yeah, insane. Last but not least, maybe a surprise hitting the 19.6 fantasy points, becoming RB6. Not even somebody we were really talking about to start the year, but Braylon Allen, 7 attempts, 33 yards, a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then through the air, another 2 receptions for 23 yards and another touchdown. Now, Josh, I'm going to send this to you, but is Braylon Allen this year's Tyler Algier?
As in rookie year Tyler Algier or second year Tyler Algier? Because those are 2 very different things.
No, I'm referring to Tyler Algier and taking what we thought was going to be a great rookie year for Bijan Robinson and inserting himself. Or in this year now, is Braylon Allen inserting himself into Breece Hall's attempts and touchdowns?
No, let's not really get this twisted. He did this on 9 touches. Okay, let's not get too crazy here.
19.6 points.
The opportunity lent itself. He scored the 2 touchdowns, which is great. I think this is really just more so a spike week than anything. Breece Hall still got his. I think he was RB4 on the week, so it's not like Braylon Allen was really holding him back by any means. I think this is really just a product of the Jets trying to work out some of the kinks and realizing that outside of Garrett Wilson, they don't have any options on offense outside of the running backs. It was good to see, if you're a Mike Williams fan, that his snap share and route percentage upticked after week 1, and he's getting a lot closer towards the number of routes run that Allen Lazard is. But both of these running backs are going to be used. And to me, it's more so a product of the fact that, like I said, the wide receiver group just isn't there right now.
Yeah, I like that you said both of them are, both these guys are going to get used, and it sounds like they're both going to get used in both aspects of the game, whether it's right. rushing or receiving. So, love seeing that for the actual NFL. Not so much. Sure, I enjoy seeing that for my Breece Hall shares and that sort of thing.
I say, as someone who does not have a lot of Breece Hall and drafted so much Braylon Allen in rookie drafts, I am very happy to see this.
But again, going back to the Brock Bowers, I think this is very much the same kind of thing, right? We saw him get taken by the Jets and we're like,
yeah. So
that's fair. All right, let's get to some of these chat questions. Saying hello, good morning to everybody in the chat. Joe Ortiz, Joe Zolo, Cesar, everybody in the chat. Let's start off with the I don't want to start off with Joe, but we'll start.
He's so negative this morning.
This is Joe. Like, when is he?
I mean, it is what this show's about, so I guess I can't hold it against him. But
Travis Kelce currently tight end 26. Some names ahead of him include Will Disley, Luke Schoonmaker, Taysom Hill, Jonnu Smith, Brendan Strange. Okay, this is going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, we don't need to read all these names.
We don't need to read all of those names. That's insane. Insane. George, is now my window to package Najee Harris and Devontae Adams, and upgrade at running back. We'll start with you, Ryan.
Najee wasn't really great this week, but the question is, when's going to be the right week? So yes, probably with Adams kind of popping off this week. I don't know that I'm in a big rush to move Adams either. It would need to be a pretty big upgrade at running back, plain and simple.
Josh, any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know what upgrade at running back you're really getting. I guess what's your threshold for upgrade, right? Like,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to look. Like,
Travis
no one's going to give you,
maybe.
No one's going to give you Kamara. James Conner might be an interesting one because nobody wants to believe in James Conner.
But I think you could probably do Adams for Conner straight up.
That's
like,
true
you
too.
Wouldn't need to package Najee, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. ETN, maybe take a run at Jonathan Taylor, but he was so good this week, I don't think they're going to move off of him.
Yeah, but was he good? He only played 52% of the snaps. I mean, I understand he had over 100 yards on, a fraction of the carries from what he typically had, but like, they basically pulled him off the field because they were trailing, which didn't make any sense to me.
That's fair too.
Or
did they have to pull him off the field because he did all the work for the first 3 quarters of the game?
Well, but still, I mean,
at one point
he's doing all the work and actually being productive with it. Why are you bringing in Trey Sermon and fucking Tyler Goodson?
I say at one point in the game, they said he had like 75% of the Colts yardage. So,
yeah.
Hey, but he did say it'd be JT or ETN. Yes, I would make those trades for JT or ETN, George. Plain and simple.
Oh, yeah, that's not just an upgrade. That's awesome. Jaleel McLaughlin or Christian Watson droppable, either one or both.
I haven't dug deep into this yet. Watson is probably in the current situation droppable. In the current situation, the issue is you don't know how many weeks it's going to last. But it's not like he did anything. I mean, he caught a touchdown, but his target share was like super low in week 1, wasn't it? 5 targets. I guess that's not super low. But 13 total yards. I would say I don't drop running backs, so I'm not going to drop McLaughlin yet. But Watson, I'm fine with dropping.
I mean, I don't really love dropping either of them. It really just, to me, depends on who you're looking to pick up. Jaleel McLaughlin, targets are there. Nothing else really is. And the running backs in Denver right now are extremely worrisome for fantasy managers. Yeah. With Christian Watson, this is exactly what we knew was going to happen. They were going to spread the ball around to all the different wide receivers in this offense. You were going to have highs and lows. It wouldn't surprise me the moment Jordan Love comes back and Christian Watson has a 4-catch, 2-touchdown game, because that's just the capability of this offense. Now, again, if you feel like there's somebody on waivers that can help you win this week because Christian Watson probably isn't, so be it. That's fine. Go after those W's, because at the end of the day, fantasy is still a week-to-week game. I'm okay holding them because better days are ahead. But again, you drafted Christian Watson knowing the headaches were going to be there.
Yeah, that's fair. I think everybody drafted him knowing that. What the fuck do I do with Christian Kirk? Mind-boggling. He's not involved with what he's getting paid. Yeah, 88% snap share. You got 3 targets.
He's later on in the show sheet. Stick around. We're gonna bitch about Christian Kirk.
And then Les comes
We're
right
gonna
back.
bitch about both of these people too. So let's hold on.
We'll leave those for later.
That's a club fantasy follower right there, because I have both of those guys on the same team as well. And I'll tell you a story when we get to it about the mistake I made this weekend. So
joke popping back in. My IDP scored 95 of 275 points this week. IDP is fun. Yeah. Agreed. My IDP saved me this week. In one of my leagues. Jonathan says, my brother really wants Bowers from me. Told him it's going to cost him. What would you trade Bowers and Brian Robinson, or would you trade Bowers and Brian Robinson for Jonathan Taylor?
I would not. I think you have the best tight end in fantasy football and a serviceable running back. I am not making this trade.
Agreed.
He says also he's got J.K. Dobbins. Should he try to trade Dobbins now or hold on if hopefully he stays healthy? Yeah, I think you're trading.
Package Dobbins and someone else to go get Taylor. That's what you do.
Okay. Would you
send him Dobbins and B-Rob? I'll give up the running back depth there.
Yep, give the 2 running backs, Brian Robinson and J.K. Dobbins, and go get Jonathan Taylor.
I'm good with that.
He says he also has Trey McBride and Bowers.
Yeah,
great. Do you know how many teams I have Kelsey and Bowers on right now, and I'm not moving either one of them. Now, Kelsey's because nobody will take him.
Yeah, I just plug one of them in your flex.
Yep.
Be done. Joe Ortiz, what's Rashad? I guess it's Rashad White.
Yeah, he has that groin injury.
Okay. He wants to get Braylon Allen, but only guy wants to drop Bucky. I don't think you do this.
I would not do this. First of all, always look to drop a wide receiver first. I know you're saying the only guy you can drop is Bucky. You got to take a hard look at your wide receivers and be like, am I really going to play? I know the name recognition. Am I really going to play Christian Kirk? Am I really going to play Diontae Johnson? Go get the running back depth. And it's, again, this is all going to lead into a mistake I made this weekend. So,
yeah, I'm with you on that one, Ryan.
All right. Again, if you want your chat up there, just keep putting them in. We will get to them as we can. Unnecessary shots of Rumplements, key players, key injuries this week. Woof. We know CMC ended up on the IR. We know about the Tua Tagovailoa deal. I'm not going to stay on Tua very long, but I do know Ryan wants to talk about some.
Yeah, I ended up making it one of the segments, so we'll talk about that one later. So,
all right, yeah. Tajay Spear leaves the game early with an ankle. Tank Bigsby has a shoulder. Justin Jefferson left with a thigh bruise. Cooper Kupp left with an ankle injury seen in a boot after the game. Taysom Hill has a chest injury. Taysom Hill left a lot of people with chest injuries, and they're known as heartbreaks. Is what that is. Jermaine Johnson likely toward his Achilles. Keenan Allen ruled out ahead of Sunday Night Football. Plantar fasciitis, it sounds like. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a knee contusion, but it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Don't think anything's gonna hurt come from that guy. He's just
19 targets. So.
Yeah. Isaiah Pacheco fractured fibula. We talked about this a little bit earlier before the show. Looks like he's going to have a MRI today. It's probably going to end up on IR. Probably going to be the end of the season, at least for fantasy for him. It's going to be somewhere, I'm guessing somewhere around 12 weeks. When you look at the history, we had this with Jaylen Waddle a couple years ago. He missed 11 and still wasn't 100% when he came back. Last one I got on the list is Justin Herbert. Ankle. Doesn't seem like it's going to keep him out, but he's going to be limited as far as as far as running. Not that he runs a ton anyway.
Well, as someone, because don't forget, Herbert was dealing with plantar fasciitis as well. As someone who literally has ankle and plantar fascia problems, having them at the same time is fucking awful. Awful. Let me just throw that out there.
The good news is the Chargers are just running the fuck out of the football, so it really doesn't matter.
I'm telling you right now, Justin Herbert will be lucky to practice on a Monday or Tuesday this entire season. I'll be shocked. And
I believe it.
Tuesdays are usually veteran days, so that's probably how it's going to go for him this entire season.
Good thing for Justin Herbert, he throws with his arm, not his legs.
Yeah, 100%. Just don't think about that rushing upside because it's gone.
Yeah, do we have it in? We don't have it in here very as far as the show sheet. With Isaiah Pacheco, I know it's still 3 weeks before CEH gets back off the IR.
Is the only guy you need, baby?
Is it Carson Steele? Is it Carson Steele? Is it Samaje Perine? Is there somebody else on the market that we're not looking at yet?
I was built for this moment at CEH. No, we talked about this before the show, but it's great info. We actually had a debate because I said my money would be on Jerick McKinnon, but I'll let Josh point out why he doesn't think Jerick McKinnon's the right call. So
yeah, Jerick McKinnon plays the same role as Samaje Perine. They went and they prioritized Perine over trying to bring back Jerick McKinnon. So I don't think McKinnon is in the cards unless they think that Perine can ultimately step up to be a pseudo lead back for them. Now, granted, I feel like he does have the size and he has some experience in that role, but he's ultimately not near as effective. If they're staying on roster, they're going to give that work to Carson Steele, right? They, even after the fumble in yesterday's game, they still utilized him in the moments, right? They were using him in short yardage, which is kind of what they've wanted to use him in. So I think they'll give him first crack at sort of taking over the lead snap share with Pacheco. But I think you'll probably see a lot more of a rotation between Steele and then Perine, and then they'll likely look to the streets, maybe some previous relationships to sort of add in some depth. And then after a few weeks, when maybe CEH comes back, things will start to sort of shake out as some of these other pieces get more into game shape.
And then, Jay, I actually just want to kick it over to you on this one because you were the one you mentioned. You and Stacy talked about this player who was a trade candidate before the season. He stumbled into the end zone this week. I think Khalil Herbert might be a guy.
Yeah, Stacy and I brought this up earlier this summer during the best ball show, and somebody that her and I were grabbing a good bit of, even though he was second and maybe even at the time third on the depth chart behind Roschon. I believe he's second on the depth chart now, but it's somebody that, you know, with that backfield that the Bears currently have, they could be looking to move on from one of these guys. And Khalil Herbert seems to be that guy that they would, you know, that the Chiefs could actually use and plug and play right away. And I like the fit there. Herbert going to the Chiefs, go get a ring. Cause I mean, it doesn't matter what the Chiefs do. They're going to make the playoffs at 8-9. And then, like I said before, they're going to go 5-0 in the playoffs. And, you know, it is what it is.
Sub 500 making the playoffs. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, Seattle did.
Yeah,
Seattle did. And hosted a playoff game, if you remember, against the Saints, and just destroyed the Saints that year.
That's fair.
Yeah, and the other guy that, you know, Joel brings it up in the chat. Travis Kelce, who, again, we talked about him earlier, he could be the proxy here. They absolutely gets some love. So
I say just put him in the backfield.
Are you blowing? Yes,
right.
Absolutely. I mean, he was in the backfield like, I don't know, 10 plays between him and who else was it? They had like 4 running backs in the backfield. 2 of them were tight ends.
Yeah, no,
at times. So it was quite interesting. How much of your fab would you put on Steele?
I'm not going high on any of these guys. I'm talking 15% at most on either of the two. It's a timeshare at best. I don't think anyone leads this backfield. And I think they have competition. Honestly, I think they have competition in the next 48 hours, whether it's Jerick McKinnon, whether it's Kareem Hunt, whether it's one of these trade candidates. I think they have competition in the next 48 hours.
With J-Mo blowing up, what can we expect from LaPorta? And wait and see or trade Bowers now?
We're going to get to LaPorta later in the show.
Yeah, we'll talk about LaPorta in a bit.
J-Mo had another great game, though.
20 targets in 2 weeks.
Kid's looking real.
Yeah, it is somebody yesterday morning when we had the post put up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Was a lot of questions, and I think most of us, if not all of us, agree that J-Mo was absolutely a smash start against a defense that was, somewhat suspect in the back end with injuries. And he did. He lasted. He lasted, and they did a great job getting him the ball. All right, let's get to the shot of espresso. Quality performances that got the juices flowing. And Ryan, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I think we got to talk about, we've touched on it, but I'm going to call them the greatest show on turf, the Saints offense for fantasy football. And the first place I want to start is fantasy rankings. They have the QB2, the RB1, the wide receiver 9, but it's not who you think it is, the tight end 9, and it's not who you thought it would be, the kicker 5, and the defense 6. They are literally top 10 in every fantasy category. And this is where I want to allude to the mistake I made. I bought into volume, and I had on my team Christian Kirk, Diontae Johnson, and the GOAT, Rashid Shaheed, the wide receiver 9 in fantasy right now. Due to the Christian McCaffrey injury, I wanted to get Isaac Horrendo. I had to cut one player, and I cut Rashid Shaheed before the game kicked off, thinking it was a 1-week thing. Keep in mind, I have him a lot of other places, so this is kind of a diversification thing. But I will literally be blowing so much fab to get him back on my team while cutting one of the other 2 guys that we'll bitch about later. So this is the kind of mistake you make where you kind of overthink things. Don't read into these targets, but let's get back to the Saints. Alvin Kamara, we expect games like this from him. So I'm not going to say this is a sell high moment because this offense looks good, but if you can sell insanely high on Kamara, do it because he's just as likely to score 0 touchdowns. We've seen it before. Even Derek Carr stole a touchdown from him this week. That's not something I expect to continue. But really the question I have for you two is this every week now? I don't think this offense isn't doing anything that looks unsustainable. The touchdown to Rashid Shaheed, that was the same play that they called the week before. Like literally it's a double move in the middle of the field. They're splitting cover 2 defenses. He's right there dead center with no safety help and catching everything thrown his way. I love this kid. I adore this kid. But when you look at this offense, they get Chris Olave back involved this week. Obviously Kamara, they're seeing better Jamal Williams this year than they saw last year. Tight end is not great right now, but there were a lot of people who were excited when Foster Moreau signed with the Saints, and maybe this is what's to come. Do we think maybe not 40 points a week, but Josh, do we think this Saints offense could lead the NFL in scoring this year?
The way that it's looking, absolutely. I mean, they're using, the pre-snap motion from week in to week out is head and shoulders above what it was last year. I mean, they were bottom 3 in the NFL in pre-snap motions. They're, I think, top 3 this year. It goes to show the difference in quality when it comes to play calling and Pete Carmichael and that Sean Payton tree from last few years, to Clint Kubiak and the extension of the Kyle Shanahan system this year. And when you have the pieces to be able to do that, Chris Olave, young, athletic, Rashid Shaheed, young, athletic, Alvin Kamara, still an absolute dog in the backfield. They have the pieces to be able to be an effective offense. And right then it just boils down to, can Derek Carr be the guy that distributes the football? And when you go all the way back to the last 6 games, including the one against Dallas, he has all of 2 interceptions in the last 6 games.
Yep.
And he's throwing up touchdowns as well. I think he has 16 or 17 touchdowns in those 6 games. So he's keeping pace. He's doing the things that he needs to do. He's not making mistakes. He's getting the chunk yards. I was surprised that he did it against Dallas. Dallas came out and showed that they were a pretty solid defense. Now, granted, it was against the Browns. They were a pretty solid defense last year as well. They got Trayvon Diggs back, new defensive coordinator. Maybe it was just a little bit of a letdown because, first home game of the season, et cetera, et cetera. But, I mean, the Saints have Eagles at home next week. They're at Atlanta, at Kansas City, versus the Bucs, versus the Broncos. Those are the next, 5 games?
Yeah.
I think we're going to find out really quickly if this is a really, really good offense because there's a couple of pretty decent defenses in there, especially the Chiefs.
Yeah, just to continue with their schedule. I mean, it doesn't get any harder when it goes Denver, Chargers, Carolina, Atlanta. I mean, it's an easy schedule. Can they do it? Sure, why not? Question for you, and this is just completely off the top of my head. We've talked, in the past about possibly Davante Adams getting traded. Do we find a new home here with his new buddy? I mean, just saying.
They're perpetually in cap hell. So I'm not saying they can't make it work because they always seem to make some shit work. But I also don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know what the Raiders would be looking for because they're not getting a player back from the Saints. Unless they're trying to get A.T. Perry, the fucking GOAT.
Josh, who is one of your shots of espresso this morning?
I'll start with DK Metcalf. He was one of my preseason faves. I had him as a top 10 wide receiver on the season. A little bit of a dud last week, but kind of expected it, given the circumstance of going against Patrick Surtain. 14 targets, 10 catches, 129 yards, and a touchdown. These are the types of numbers, not necessarily the production, but more so the target share that I envisioned when I put him in my top 10. Getting that level of target share consistently week in and week out is a staple of the Ryan Grubb offense. They wanted to spread the ball around. They're going to be high octane. That's exactly what they were. 28.9 fantasy points, wide receiver 2 on the week. These are the numbers. This is what you want to see from the Seattle offense. And it was good to see Geno Smith actually distributing the football. So give me all of these numbers the rest of the season. And my fantasy teams are going to be doing so fucking well because I have so much DK Metcalf across all of them.
Yeah, I love the DK Metcalf. I threw one in here on the same team, JSN. I mean, we talked about him all summer long about liking this guy, not liking the guy, what he could mean against the, taking over for Tyler Lockett. Like DK though, DK 14 targets, JSN 16 targets.
Yep.
Yeah.
And his first career 100-yard game. So my shot of espresso, one of my shots of espresso.
I love that. Like I said, we've been waiting for this breakout. Shout out to our boy who wrote articles about it. And shout out to Josh, who's been saying this is a different offense. This is an NCAA offense, and we've seen it fail. But when it works, it leads to high volume. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Ryan, who you got next?
I honestly just want to quickly run by Amon-Ra St. Brown, mainly because I love him. But he is the poster child for don't panic about week 1. We were freaking out. And both things can exist with JMO being good and ARSB being good. And honestly, I think these two are the perfect complement to one another. LaPorta might be the one we need to be worried about. But with JMO field stretching and Sun God working underneath, this is exactly what you want to see. 11 catches for 119 yards on 19 targets, led the NFL in targets. But this also goes to something, Jay, that you maybe don't want to hear. This is also about don't overreact to things in week 1. The Tampa Bay pass defense looked really, really good in week 1 when they were playing a rookie who couldn't throw the football. So when you signed on to DraftKings and saw that Amon-Ra and JMO were taking on the 32nd ranked pass defense, hopefully you didn't overreact to those numbers because Tampa Bay tends to give up passing numbers and shut down the run. Don't read into what happened because Jaden Daniels was their week 1 opponent. So these are the things they were the perfect poster child of what not to overreact to in week 1. Things usually aren't as good or as bad as they look after the season's opening week.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucs defense gave up over 300 yards to Jared Goff, also got 2 picks, but they had 7. The Lions had 7 offensive possessions in the second half and didn't score a single touchdown on any of them.
Okay.
So, and again, you're talking about a rookie playing nickel. You're talking about a second-year player playing safety right now because we've got a player out. Yeah. You've got Zion McCollum just coming back from concussion, just got cleared yesterday. Ended up taking a pick right away. Now there was defensive pass interference on that didn't get called, but it was a pick, and that set the tone for the game for the defense at that point.
Yeah, I don't think he made the show sheet.
Talk about my defense all you freaking want to.
They need to grow.
I got stats and I got eyeballs that come back at you.
And I love that you got it. But more importantly, where the fuck is Jared Goff? He's not in any of the show sheet anywhere, and we don't need to spend a lot of time on this because something tells me we'll be talking about it a lot next week. But man, did I misread the Jared Goff at home in a dome situation, and we'll just leave it at that for right now.
Well, you weren't the only one. You were not the only one that misread that. Josh, who you got next?
For me, it's Calvin Ridley. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show. I've faded him pretty hard this week against the Jets and going against Sauce Gardner. I mean, 6 targets, kind of middling, but for the Tennessee offense, not a bad number. 4 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown, and then also added a 10-yard rushing touchdown. To me, he showed that he's the unquestioned leader in this Tennessee passing attack. He's run 67 routes over the last 2 weeks and currently leads the NFL in air yards over the last 2 weeks, 319. So I want to give a shout out to Jacob Gibbs from CBS Sports for those numbers. Yeah. But the best thing to me is when you're looking at, kind of across the board, like route percentage, targets, those types of things from a team perspective, week in and week out, his role hasn't changed through 2 weeks. So that tells me that he is that guy. So if he's got a really, really good matchup, you definitely want him in your lineup. But I think that really what this shows is that throughout the rest of the year, he should be a top 24 receiving option in fantasy.
Ryan, you got one more?
Yeah, real quick, when we've already talked about Brock Bowers, leads all tight ends in targets, but one stat I found interesting, only 3 tight ends have been top 10 in both weeks so far. Bowers, George Kittle, and Trey McBride. So while Joe wants to sit here and tell you stick with the lesser tight ends, 3 of the higher drafted tight ends are the only ones who have been consistent this season so far.
Josh, last one.
I'll give some love to Kyler Murray. He came out slinging. He's QB1 currently on the week and did a lot of the damage in the first quarter. 266 yards, 3 touchdowns on only 21 attempts, and then added another 59 rushing yards. He was Matthew Berry's my guy for 2024. He's definitely proven it so far. I will say I want to give a quick shout out to Drew Petzing, their offensive coordinator. I did not know how to assess this Cardinals offense. I knew they would take a bit of a step forward. I just didn't know how much of a step forward. It really goes to show that when you add a competent quarterback into the mix, your offense can take a huge leap forward, especially when you get a bona fide wide receiver 1. And that's what they got in Marvin Harrison. Now Kyler is 2 years into the system. And then even the fluke fumble recovery from Trey McBride in the end zone. Like, I'm looking at his stat line, like, how does he have 18 points? What is this? He only has 12.7. What are we doing? Yep.
Joe Ortiz.
Scores a score. Scores a score, 100%. Yeah, everything was just breaking the Cardinals' way this week. The Rams look like they're in trouble, but kudos to the Cardinals. Their defense came to play, and their offense is looking really good. So enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Indeed.
Yeah, give Kyler his props. I mean, that he ran around for 8.5 seconds on that touchdown pass to Elijah Higgins. Insane.
Donovan McNabb-esque right there, baby.
Freaking insane. Let's get over a couple of these chats real quick. Man, we are flying through this show. Does Pacheco injury possibly improve Worthy's value because they will most likely pass the ball more?
In the Football Guys chat, Worthy's name was the first one mentioned as who benefits from this. So yes, I believe it does. So
it definitely can. Yeah, I will say to Joel's point, they're going to use the tight ends a lot more in those like pick and pop short screen games that they tend to do. Kelsey got tackled at the 1 yard line on one of them yesterday. So
yeah, he had a 40 some odd yard catch and run that got called back to. So I'm not stressing about Kelsey. He's going to get his. It's just a slow start. With A-Rich being a decaf, is this due to the defenses or the play calling, or is he dealing with something? I don't think that he's dealing with anything though.
I love our followers. I had to read this 5 times before I understood what the fuck it meant. I was like, what? I was like, is this a coffee chat? Like, are we in the wrong? What is going on here? I don't think he's dealing with anything except who he is as a person. My man is playing Madden. You have good games of Madden. You have bad games of Madden. This was a bad game of Madden. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like last week too, we touched on it on this very show. Like he had basically 15 plays that worked into his favor, and that's why it was QB4. Those didn't go his way this week. That's the headache that you get with A-Rich. You get the highs of highs, and then you get the lows of lows.
There was a play towards the end of the game. I think he was going to Alec Pierce where like it was so off target, 5 yards, but he doesn't have touch at all. It's literally a cannon attached to my kid's arm. And again, I was very much against him coming into the season, but that was more about injury. I am enjoying what I'm seeing. I'm also happy he's not my quarterback in 99% of my leagues. So.
Yeah, I saw an interesting stat for Alec Pierce, back-to-back games with a touchdown.
Yeah.
But
shout out Austin Amendola, the only Alec Pierce stan in this entire world.
As far as A-Rich goes, I mean, you brought it up, Ryan. He's great on the deep throws where, fuck it. Pierce is down there somewhere.
Up there somewhere.
But the short and intermediate, he's got a lot of work.
Even deep throws where he can't unload his entire arm. It was like a 37-yard comeback route. I swear it was to Pierce. And the ball went to where Pierce started his comeback instead of to where he was coming back to. So.
Yes. Charlene says, thoughts on dropping Tua. She only has one IR spot, and Jonathan Brooks is in that spot currently.
My only question is this a super flex league? Because if this is a 1 QB league, you should have never had him. I'm just giving you a hard time, but I'm not a fan of Tua in 1 QB leagues. If it's super flex, you need to hang on to him.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day,
it is super flex.
I think okay, yeah, it's super flex. You got to bite the bullet and you got to hang on to him. I mean, I don't know what other quarterbacks are really going to be out there, but he's going to come back. All reports are saying he's not considering retirement.
Tyler Huntley's going to be out there.
Yeah, there you go. Go pick up Tyler Huntley. You got
quarterback
your
Tyler Huntley
replacement or Skylar Thompson or whomever. So, yeah, not a great situation, obviously, because it feels like a roster clogger at that point. But you can't give up on Tua because once he comes back, he's going to be a QB2 for you.
Yep.
Let's get into the hangover. Biggest head scratcher on the week. Josh, I'll start with you on this one.
To me, it's the Dallas Cowboys. Straight up. Like I thought they were good. What the fuck happened here? I mean, I give the Cowboys a lot of shit because, I'm an Eagles fan. Of course I do. But I'm not naive to the fact that they are a good football team. Their offense, it runs through Dak. And when he's off, then it's bad. They don't have much of a running game, and you kind of saw the signs on that when they only brought in Zeke Elliott, and they're running Waddle, who's very unproven in this league, and Zeke Elliott, who's very much past his prime. They're going to live and die by Dak's arm, and they're going to play defense. They could not get through a really not great Saints offensive line, to be quite honest with you. This offensive line has a lot of holes. They didn't get a ton of pressures. They didn't get a ton of sacks. And they got lit up for 44 points. We've seen it on numerous occasions with Trayvon Diggs. He gives up big plays. Mm-hmm. I don't remember off the top of my head whether or not the big Shaheed bomb was against him, but it wouldn't shock me if it was.
It was against about 5.
If you have an explosive offense, you can beat this team, plain and simple, because they're gonna take chances. They're gonna bite on double moves, and they're gonna get rid of the ball quickly, right? That's how you negate a good pass rush. It's quick strikes, it's quick throws, and go. They're going to have some trouble because a lot of offenses are kind of deriving from this Shanahan tree.
Yep. What
is a staple of the Shanahan offense? Get rid of the ball quickly. So if you don't get that first bite, you're fucked.
Well, their pass rush outside of Micah Parsons is aging. It's just a lot going wrong for them right now.
Yeah, they're focusing on, we got to be able to stop the run, and that's why they take guys like Maisie Smith, who quite frankly suck at stopping the run. And they're just not. I really don't know what the direction is with this defense. Truthfully, they have great star power, which fits right into the Jerry Jones mold, but the production really outside of Micah Parsons is very hit or miss on this team.
My favorite tweet. I think Joe Bryant retweeted this. He was not the original tweet, but it said, it showed Dak coming into the stadium in his cowboy hat and said, "Cowboy Dak, the Saints are in trouble." And then reader context, they added, "The Saints were not in trouble."
Yeah, right. That was funny. But yeah, and I'll bring up what Joe says here. They lost early in the season to Arizona last year in a very winnable game. This, again, it's pretty on par for Dallas, and then they'll hit a run in the middle of the season
100%.
Where Dak hits the MVP talk.
Literally, this is what Joe is saying in the chat right now. Not that you and Joe have been doing shows together for 8 years or anything.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's easy to pick on him because I'm an Eagles fan. But at the end of the day, if this is a Super Bowl team, a team with Super Bowl aspirations, you can't drop games like this. More importantly, you can't lose in the fashion that you lost it.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not a run stopping team either. That's I think that was
when you're not a run stopping team or a pass stopping team. I think there's a name for that. It's called no defense.
No defense. Ryan, who you got?
Again, this is about maybe a little bit of overreaction. My head scratcher is Amari Cooper, not necessarily the Browns offense. But when Njoku went out, you had to assume Amari Cooper was going to eat. And the targets were there. He just didn't do anything with them. 3 catches for 11 yards. And I think a lot of this falls on the quarterback. He is still at 17 targets through 2 games. That's 15th in the NFL. So that's why he's my head scratcher of the week and not going to be in the bad category, because he's getting the volume. And when this offense inevitably switches to Jameis Winston, I think Amari Cooper is going to be a shot in the arm for some fantasy managers who held on to them.
Josh, stop me when you've heard this name before. Jerry Jeudy.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
But let's be real here. He's a good wide receiver too. Like, I'm not going to deny that. He does run good routes. And when you have a quality wide receiver one like Amari Cooper, it's going to make life easier for you. He is the type of player that should be able to beat single coverage, especially man coverage, right? So if defenses pay attention to Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy will have opportunities. He just needs to be able to catch the football.
Yeah.
He did that okay this week. I think it was 5 for 73, I believe, but almost 15 yards per reception.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, is the yards per reception is what's concerning in this Deshaun Watson-led offense. Last year, Amari Cooper had like some insane yards per catch number, especially when Joe Flacco he's at 5.4 yards per catch right now. Those are fullback numbers, people. Like this is, and the Browns have 2 wide receivers at sub 6 yards per catch. That's terrible. High volume.
Amari Cooper had 2 games last year out of 14 that he played.
Yeah.
I think it was 14 he played. 2 games last year where he had sub 10 yards per reception.
Exactly. What is going, like, the Deshaun Watson is ass, plain and simple.
Yeah. I mean, it's I know my cousin was texting me about Amari Cooper yesterday, and I was like, it's not Amari Cooper. It is not Amari Cooper. That is 100% on that shit.
Yes.
Quarterback they've got. AJ Brown out for the Falcons, or with AJ Brown out against the Falcons. What are the chances they win tonight?
That's the whole end of the show. We'll get to it.
Okay, well, it's in here now. I figured I'd throw it up there.
I'm just teasing him.
Yeah, well, I mean, should I be worried? We talked a little bit about this already.
I'm starting.
You want to just leave, right? It's the next section. I'll start with
it. Is the next section, so let's do it.
Let's go. Migraine of the week. Underwhelming performance is a prelude of what's to come. Is that right? Is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
Already? Wow.
I love that Jay's just happy he's where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, I know. Listen, the intro started off great. No errors there. I haven't skipped a single segment yet, and now I probably will. It's the how do they say, the broadcaster's jinx?
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh no, this is Josh.
Yeah,
Sam LaPorta.
It's Sam LaPorta for me. It's Sam LaPorta. I preached all off season. Listen to Coach Dan Campbell. Everybody on the Lions team, the organization, all of it, they said, we want to get Jameson Williams involved. He's matured. He's talented. They spent the equivalent of 2 first-round picks to go get him. Through 2 weeks, he has 20 targets. And the only reason he has less than Amon-Ra St Brown right now is because Amon-Ra St Brown had 19 in week 2. This offense runs through the wide receivers. And next in line is Jahmyr Gibbs. Sam LaPorta has 8 targets through 2 weeks. He is becoming an afterthought in this offense right now. Is it smart? I don't know. But they didn't spend as much draft capital to get Sam LaPorta as they did Jameson Williams. They need to know and need to see what they have in Jameson Williams. Is Sam LaPorta going to get his time? 100%. He's going to have some weeks. But this is why I was telling everybody, Sam LaPorta is not your tight end 1. He projected out as my tight end 6, which as of right now looks extremely high still. But there's reason to be worried about Sam LaPorta. He's not running near as many routes as the wide receivers are. He's not running near as many routes as Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yep.
That means he's either not on the field for the passing downs or he's pass blocking. Be worried if you have Sam LaPorta. If you have somebody that is willing to buy low on Sam LaPorta, or if you can package LaPorta with a piece and maybe go get a Brock Bowers, I would do that 100 times out of 100.
I think Bowers managers will trade straight up for LaPorta right now. I had a Bowers manager who was willing to straight up trade for Kelsey last week, and I'm an asshole and said no. So go make that trade in redraft. Dynasty, I'd probably make it in Dynasty as well. It's close, but go make that trade. That was actually the question that was brought up earlier about LaPorta, is should they attack Brock Bowers? And the answer is yes.
Again, I know this is week 2, but is it too early to sit here and go, okay, Sam LaPorta reminds me so much of George Kittle? Those spike weeks, but then those weeks where he's going to get you 0 points because, again, he's from Iowa. If you're an Iowa tight end, you are absolutely 100% viable in the passing game, but you are 100% expected to block and do a damn good job at it.
Well, I was just going to say, doesn't he kind of remind you of Detroit Lions TJ Hawkinson as well? Where
he go to school?
Yeah.
Iowa.
Hawkinson, remember, had that one monster game against Arizona his rookie year, his second year in the league, and then did nothing for like 7 consecutive weeks. So,
okay, I got to pull this up here because Joel says except Noah Fant. Noah Fant is one hell of a blocker. Stop it.
All right. Well, he was last year. He improved a lot as a blocker. He was never a blocker at Iowa, though.
Yeah.
That was a Hawkinson role.
Yeah. Ryan, who you got for your migraine?
So I just want to quickly touch on Christian Kirk. This is the question that's going to come up a lot this week, and the answer is yes. Is Christian Kirk droppable? Evan Ingram goes out 5 minutes before this game starts. Christian Kirk managed 1 catch for -1 yard. If you're in a non-PPR league, he got you no fantasy points. He got you 0.9 in a PPR league. 7 targets in 2 games. And this is the bigger problem, not this one bad game. He's tied for 3rd on his own team in targets and only has 1 more target than backup tight end Brenton Strange after 1 week. This offense is going to spread the ball around. They like Brian Thomas. They're involving Gabe Davis. They involve the tight end no matter who it is. What we were hoping from Christian Kirk, 120 to 130 targets, is not happening. If you fucked up and dropped Rashid Shaheed, or if there's a running back out there that you need to get, you can drop Christian Kirk. I'm spending today answering questions we're about to get all week. Is Christian Kirk droppable? The answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah, for me, it all just boils down to who am I picking up, but
Rashid
it's
Shaheed.
definitely, yeah. Well, that's the thing is, the leagues that I play in, people don't drop Rashid Shaheed, Ryan.
Yeah, shallow bench league. I made a mistake. So
Possibly Gabe Davis, who's getting 17 yards per.
There is not enough money in the world to pay.
I was gonna say I would not go that far. I would drop him for Brian Thomas, though. Gator, actually, let me kick back. I was gonna say, let me kick back to you, Gator. Are we buying too much into Brian Thomas, who's looked pretty damn good for 2 weeks?
I mean, look, when you look at the numbers, he's only getting 4 targets a game.
And that's fair. He's not doing shit either.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, he did go for 47 and a tutty in week 1. He went for 94 and that's it in week 2. He probably should have had 2 touchdowns in week 1, by the way. I mean, I'm not going to give Joel his flowers yet on calling for Brian Thomas Jr. But I mean, he seems like the one that's going to get a steady 4 or 5 targets. Yeah. And going to be able to move the ball down the field. When you look at what else are they going to be doing? The only other person that's truly viable in that passing game on a regular right now is Travis Etienne. That's it.
Joel is demanding his flowers in the chat.
Oh, Josh, who you got next?
I'm going to shit on my boy Diontae Johnson and Courtland Sutton. I'm kind of looping them into one here. So the biggest reason why we were, quote, high on Diontae and Courtland Sutton, and I use quotes for a reason. They are the top options in their respective offenses that are likely to see 25% plus target shares. These guys are top targets in really, really bad offenses. Okay. Very bad offenses. These are hands down the two worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL in Bo Nix, or Bo Picks, as we like to call him.
Yeah.
And Bryce Young. Sutton in week 2 was 5th on his team in targets. So he's not even the top target at this point. They're spreading the football around so much that the best player is not even getting targets because the quarterback moves off the first read so often.
And loves Josh Reynolds, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Diontae led the team in targets and air yards this week, and that accounted for 3 catches for 15 yards.
And this is the second week in a row in the air yards thing, right, Josh? Because he was like second in the NFL last week, rather.
Correct. So the biggest lesson to learn here, yes, you want to always try to target volume and opportunity in these like mid to later rounds, right? But the lesson here, don't talk yourself into high volume targets and bad offenses just because the price is right.
Yeah.
And my asterisk here is this does not apply to Malik Neighbors. But this is just the reality of the situation here. Diontae, for as good as he is, he looks very frustrated already in its 2 weeks. This offensive line in Carolina has not gelled. Bo Nix looks way uncomfortable behind this offensive line. He looks totally unprepared. He looks like a rookie. Okay. Bryce Young just looks bad.
Yep.
And this is a problem, a big problem. And it extends to obviously these top targets in these offenses because there's not ever going to be a moment where you feel happy even to flex them. And I have Sutton and I have Diontae Johnson in quite a few leagues.
Yep.
So when you're talking about guys to potentially drop, these guys will be at the top of your list.
Yep.
And it's okay to feel that way. Because at the end of the day, your bench depth is there ever going to be a week where I feel comfortable starting these guys?
So, Josh, I am so glad. That is literally after I cut Shaheed like an asshole. That's what I looked back at my roster and said was, when am I going to start Diontae Johnson or Christian Kirk? I'm not going to. And
if you are, you're definitely not going to feel good doing it.
That's the best question to ask yourself when you're so in your feelings about cutting a guy. Are you ever going to play him? Who cares if your rival in the league gets them? Let them have that headache. Let them have to take the antacid every week when they have to start Courtland fucking Sutton. Like, make the cut. I love that, Josh. I love that.
I so bad want to bring up Brandon Ayuk here, but I don't think it's even viable to bring him up in a
I'll just wait for next week.
I say we got to give it a week.
Exactly. All that man coverage, and Brandon Ayuk goes for 7 catches, 130 yards. Just wait.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, look, you've got no CMC for the first 2 weeks, at least right now. And now he's going to be out for a couple more weeks, but you've got no CMC stealing some of the targets like he does out of the backfield. Jordan Mason, I think, has had 1 target yesterday. And you can still only get 5 targets for fucking Brandon Ayuk, who's, maybe we should start listening to some of these NFL teams that go, yeah, they're not paying the guy.
We don't want him.
We don't want him. They don't want me.
31 teams in the NFL. Well, I guess 28 because it's the Steelers, the Browns, and the Patriots wanted him. They just didn't want to pay for him.
That's right. That's right. Ryan, you got another one?
I think we have to end this, and really this is more of an opinion piece because this was the first question I got yesterday was, without Tua, how are we treating the Miami wide receivers? And is this a headache for the foreseeable future? The stats I pulled, and when I say the Miami wide receivers, I mean Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle, 10 targets in this game with bad Tua, 10 targets, 7 catches for 65 yards. I'm sorry, Skylar Thompson, Pro Bowler, Tyler Huntley are not going to be that much better than bad Tua. Thompson specifically in this game had a 57 completion percentage and the same yards per attempt as quote unquote bad Tua. I'm nervous. I don't think you can move Tyreek Hill outside of a top 10 option, but Josh, he was the theme of this show last season. I think Jaylen Waddle is a wide receiver 3 with not much upside in this current offense.
Oh, yeah. Without Tua, Jaylen Waddle is a heavy fade for me, and it's not close. Yeah. Tyreek, I'm still going to buy into because he's the first read option on more, 70% of the plays, or pass plays anyway. And they know that they need to get him involved.
Yeah.
But a backup quarterback's not going to be able to support both those guys.
Maybe one.
And if one.
Wolf.
And pour one out for Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, right. I don't know. Jonnu
had an okay
I was
game.
going to say, I say that facetiously, but what do young, inexperienced mobile quarterbacks do? They pepper their tight end and they pepper their running backs. So.
It's not only that. You just remember just a year ago, Yeah, he was peppered, but he was peppered with a Kyle Pitts on the field as well. They were like, no, give it to the better player. Give it to the best player.
Jonnu Smith might outscore Jaylen Waddle for the next month.
That's fair. All right, let's get to one of these last segments here. We got 2 more to go. Chill the fuck out. The dud that was merely a blip on the schedule. Josh, I want to start with you here because I don't like what Ryan's pick is. I'm going to delete that from the show sheet and let Ryan kiss off. He can find something else to talk about.
No, this is a good category, Jay. This means we're only worried about it because it's 1 week. It's not a whole season thing.
I know. I don't even want you to put this out into the ether that this is something you even looked at. You shouldn't even be looking at this.
This is the first
before you guys dive into Mike Evans. Jesus.
Yeah.
Bury the lead. My God. For me, it's Tank Dell. Like, he only had 4 targets, 1 catch, -3 yards. He did have 3 rushing attempts. We talked about this all off season. He's very similar to Jaden Reed. These guys, they're smaller. They're very useful in a lot of different facets of the game. When they're on the field, they need to have plays schemed up for them. That is how they're going to be effective. Tank Dell is the 3rd option in this passing attack. But what I'm getting at here more so than anything is better days will be ahead. CJ Stroud missed him on quite a few open looks. I know he had at least 1 drop. And let's give the Bears defense some credit here. Their trio of starting corners is very good. They're young, maybe a little unpolished in some instances, but they're very good. And I'm not really taking too much stock in, oh shit, why did I start Tank Dell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's going to have his moments. He's likely going to be a top 25, top 30 option this year. He's going to have some spike weeks when these plays that are schemed up for him hit pay dirt. Just take the L, and that's it. Move off. It's fine.
Yeah, you said it. We talked about it a bunch this year with him being the odd man out when it comes to a 2 wide receiver set. So I think it's a stretch to think that he's going to be a top 30, 35 wide receiver this year because I think there's going to be a lot more. Nico Collins showed it last night.
He is the unquestioned wide receiver 1 on that team.
Yeah.
The fact that Nico Collins literally did not exist until CJ Stroud is just incredible. And I mean, I understand he had a few weeks here and there, but my goodness, the metamorphosis of Nico Collins into a legit wide receiver in the NFL the second he got CJ Stroud I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's just an absolute stud. Ryan,
speaking of studs,
absolute studs. Or as Joe likes to say, dog.
Exactly. We are going to get inundated with questions. I'm already planning for our Wednesday show. It's going to be blah, 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 or Mike Evans. And the answer is Mike Evans every time. This is his game. There are bad weeks. But guess what? If you bench him after a bad week, you miss the boom week. You miss the 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans is stapled into your lineup until he is out. Plain and simple. I'm not worried about a bad week for Mike Evans. And Austin Amendolia actually on our DFS show said this Lions pass defense is better than you think it is. And it was likely to be Godwin the whole time because of the different route tree that he runs. So again, this was mildly expected, but even if it wasn't expected, you do not bench Mike Evans under any circumstance. Plain and simple.
No,
unless you know he and Marshawn Lattimore are going at it in the first quarter. That's the only time.
I think the other thing you need to look at too is when you break down what actually happened on the field, nothing changed. The only thing that changed is the 2 touchdowns that Mike Evans received in the first game. That's the only difference.
throw this out you, because one thing I'm noticing in all of the highlights, and this is different for him, Baker seems to be running for his life a lot. Is this an offensive line issue? Is this a Baker holding the ball too long issue?
I think both can be true. Both can be true. I don't think it's a bad offensive line issue. I think this is Baker,
letting things develop,
putting the team on his back. Number one, he's actually rushing the ball quite a bit more this year early than he did last year, but he still gets the ball out, right?
Let me be clear. He's not taking hits, and he's not even really making bad throws. He's just moving around a lot, and I'm like, this is not the Baker Mayfield I've seen.
Very similar to the way Kyler Murray's moving around,
100%.
In the pocket. But I will tell you this: Aiden Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks yesterday. Christian Wirfs went out early in the game, so they did have a backup tackle in there as well. It wasn't great, but Baker made. I'll tell you this. It made me laugh. But on the broadcast yesterday, they showed Baker's run for the touchdown. Right, he had an 11-yard run and then another 11-yard run on the very next play for the touchdown. He stanky-legged or stiff-legged the defender out of his boots. Rodriguez was all over the place, sliding on skis. But then they had the audacity to sit there and put up a Barry Sanders clip and say which one is better. So of course I automatically looked. My dad was over. I automatically looked at him and I was like, "Oh, it's easy. It's Baker. I mean, Barry's washed. He's a running back. He's expected to do that. Baker's not expected to do that." And of course, my dad, he's like, "Yeah, fuck off."
Yeah, let's not say that.
But yeah,
that reminds me of that joke that was going around a while there, where it's like, I know that people aren't going to want to hear this, but Jerry Rice would not make it in today's NFL. And it goes through all the reasons why. And it's like, whether you like it or not, he's a 60-year-old man. He just couldn't come out there and play today. I'm talking about the actual Jerry Rice, not prime Jerry Rice.
Baker Mayfield on the 2 weeks, 55 yards rushing and a touchdown. He's got more touchdowns rushing than a lot of RB1s.
There you go. You love to see it.
Just saying. All right, let's talk about Monday night. Atlanta at Philly. The spread on ESPN Bet is Philly by 6, over under a 47.5. This is a good spot again to talk about the underdog promo.
I was going to say, and this was the question that got brought up too. But yeah, I'll let you guys talk underdog first.
Josh.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There you go. So over on Underdog, if you sign up first-time depositors using code WOFF, WOFF, get yourself a free pick and a first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. The pick'ems are great, high-lows, all that good stuff. You can set lineups and all those kinds of things. Jay, I know we've kind of talked about doing some draft shows around Underdog. So this is your time to get involved with Underdog. So sign up using code WOFF, WOFF.
They have another cool feature that I just noticed today called the Streak.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh, this is similar to the thing I told you me and my little brother started last season, where so if you take a $10 bet and find even odds bets that you like every week and you win 10 times in a row, it's fucking hard. But if you do it, that $10 becomes 10,000 with you only having put the $10 in. Well, Underdog is actually matching this now. You have to win 2 your first week though. So you put an initial bet in, and I did one today and it's $1. And then if you get 11 right in a row to the first week and then 1 every slate after that, they 1,000 extra money. So it's a pretty interesting little thing that I'll be messing around with now. So
yeah, you got to restart every week.
Well, no. You restart when you lose, Jay.
So
and
you'll
I'm not
be restarting.
I was going to say, so I will not be restarting every week. But we'll get into that later. I'll keep you guys posted on my progress. But Jay, you were about to bring up the game, and we kind of left this question till the end. So
AJ Brown out. Do the Falcons have a chance at winning tonight?
Not if their offense looks the way that they did week 1. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, not if Kirk Cousins is week 1 Kirk Cousins. And I'm legitimately concerned. We've had Jalen Carter take 1 quarterback out already this season. I think we're probably looking at number 2 tonight. I was looking for that on Underdog.
Yeah, he actually does have a sack prop, higher, lower 0.5. I almost took it because I think there's an extra charge on it too. It's like 1.25, I think.
I'm gonna play it.
When I was
I'll
going
tell you
through
that
and
right
looking at our props, I was like, man, that one looks juicy.
I like it because, like I said, if it's the offense we saw last week, Josh, I'm hammering the under on this because the Eagles' offense didn't look all that great either outside of Saquon Barkley. So,
I mean, AJ Brown still had 5 for 119. Devontae had
I guess let me put that. Yeah, let me put it into perspective.
yards.
Jalen Hurts didn't look all that great, especially running the ball. So,
well, that's fair, but I mean, it was more scrambles than design runs than anything.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I'm not putting too much stock into that, but I think anytime you take the best offensive piece out of the offense, it's gonna take some time to adjust to that. I think the under, if you're gonna make a bet on one of these, is the better route to go. I think Philly probably wins by more than 6. I don't know that I would bet the spread. I would probably just take the money line, whatever that
I was
is.
just gonna say I don't like taking the favorite and the under because then you end up in a really weird situation where you're like, I need Philly to score a touchdown, but then it blows one bet at one place or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would also go money line in the under.
And that's the thing is that this Falcons defense is good. Their pass rush obviously got better. And against Rashawn Gary just absolutely blew us up in week 1. And that has me a little bit worried.
I do love what
Judon as well. So
I do love what Joel is saying as a Packers fan. He's saying this is what the Packers did. They shut down Hurts, and then they did it again yesterday. Maybe that we should just be crediting the Packers defense more than going at Jalen Hurts.
Well, and that's the thing. This is a copycat league. So
everyone's going to do it
Morris is going through and looking at this game plan, and he's like, all right, this is how we need to attack, the Philly tackles. This is how we have to contain Jalen Hurts, et cetera, et cetera. He's the type of defensive coordinator that can make that happen. So that's what, the Philly offense, I think, is going to be fine. You're going to see a lot of Saquon Barkley. You're going to see a lot of Dallas Goedert in this game, which, again, is really just a byproduct of them not having A.J. Brown. Devonta Smith is going to get his. A.J. Terrell had some moments, and he is a very good corner. But the way that Smitty runs routes, I don't care how good the corner is. He's gonna absolutely dominate.
Josh, you went 0-1. So you
don't talk to me about kickers.
You are 0-1 on your on your Monday night props.
Pick the wrong kicker. All right, shut up. Move on.
Yeah, I was about the second quarter. I almost texted you and was like, "Did you pick the right kicker?" He's like, I can go change it right now. Nobody heard it.
Greg Zuerlein has 1 field goal made on this season.
Fucking terrible, man. Just terrible.
In a season where kickers are dominating,
right? Yeah, Greg the leg my ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's your prop for tonight?
For me, it's Dallas Goedert higher than 41.5. To me, this is an easy higher simply because A.J. Brown is out. This offense, the passing game, it's Brown, it's Smith, it's Goedert. When one of them goes out, the third option gets propped up. So
such a good point.
This is a really easy hire for me. Like I said, I love the safety tandem that the Falcons have between Justin Simmons and Jesse Bates. That will give Goedert some fits, but the way that Kellen Moore schemes his system, the way that Jalen Hurts will look to Goedert and has the trust in Goedert, he should very easily get higher than 41.5. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, the Jalen Carter higher than half sack prop, I think, is a pretty easy smash.
I like that.
The way that that defensive line gets after the quarterback and how immobile Kirk Cousins is.
Ryan, you and I went 1-0. So that's why we're actually gonna give you
Ryan's was a cop out. There's a big giant asterisk.
I snuck in on a technicality, and I believe they just cancel all those bets in that situation.
Yeah,
so
but it wasn't a technicality. You and I, because I agreed with you, were 100% correct that CMC was not going to see the amount of.
Well, you actually had CMC over half a touchdown. Thank you very much.
Again,
but you still
Ryan, we're not talking. So. Listen, Josh, you're interrupting mine and Ryan's conversation again. Ryan, what do you got for the night?
I'm going to take Bijan scoring a touchdown. I think the struggles with Kirk Cousins are real, and I know the Eagles can get beat through the air typically, but I think we're going to see a situation where we need him to get up the field. One of my issues with the Steelers offense is, how can you bet on a Najee Harris touchdown when you don't know if they're ever going to get inside the 20-yard line? So I'm hoping Kirk Cousins can get them up the field. But the one thing I like about Bijan Robinson is he is the type of guy who can score from anywhere on the field. I like these little pick who you think is going to score a touchdown. I think Bijan gets one for the Atlanta Falcons.
Is that that's a rushing or receiving? So basically an anytime touchdown.
Anytime touchdown.
Love it. I love it. So I went 1-0 last week as well. Just so you know. I don't even remember what the bet was, but it won. I'm taking I'm gonna do 2 this week. Just so Josh can, claim that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about again. I'm going to take
that.
That
was Deebo Samuel over rushing yards.
Which was the great.
Once CMC went out, that was an easy smash.
Well, and then do you remember how many he had? Because I said I would juice that up to 30 yards if I could.
I want to say, well, no,
I know.
I think what it was is I had it at 11.5. I bought in at 11.5.
Yeah, you bought it at 11.5.
To
13.5 by Showtime. Yeah,
it was crazy how much it moved. And then of course it moved again as soon as CMC was ruled out, like 10 minutes.
23 rushing yards.
Oh, okay, so I would have been wrong at 30.
All good.
Yeah, Ryan's now 1-1. I'm just kidding.
I'm going to take Kyle Pitts 38.5 receiving yards. Listen, this is just with the Philly D. I think there's going to be some openings in the middle, and I think that's where Kyle Pitts. Hopefully, Kirk Cousins decides, hey, let's throw the ball through people that can catch it and not to just open air. But the other side of that coin is I still have Kirk Cousins throwing at least 1 pick.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll take both of those tonight.
I like it.
Hopefully it's Quinion Mitchell that gets it.
There you go. Get the rookie.
Kid played well week 1.
Yeah, I like him.
Anything else you guys want to add for today?
Nah, that was a great show.
That's all I got, man.
All right, don't forget clubfantasy.com, as Joe likes to say, the URL. So I'll just take that from Joe, whatever that means to you millennials. Clubfantasy.com is the website.
Club Fantasy FFL. Clubfantasy.com is a very different website.
Yeah.
Isn't that what I said? Club
That's where I
Fantasy
spend
FFL.
the other half of my time.
Okay, moving on. Don't forget to check out the rest of the shows here on Club Fantasy FFL. YouTube. Tomorrow morning, you get these 2 idiots talking about the waiver wire with Wiretapped. Tomorrow night, Trade Block with Dusty Joel and Hoove. That is the trade show, Dynasty Trade Show. Wednesday, 8 p.m. MPI with these 2 idiots, and the good Joe Zolo jumps back in. That is the weekly preview going into
3 idiots.
No, Joe's not an idiot anymore. He's not an idiot anymore. Following that,
Gator's hosting us now, so he's got to stay
Exactly.
on Joe's
That's
side.
right. That's right.
Stick together.
Me and Joe are together. Wednesday night, directly following, no pun intended, is the new show Cleat Dreams with the women of fantasy football, Kelly and Renee. Right. And then what is it? Thursday morning, Oh Captain, My Captain. That's Josh and Austin. DFF showdown for Thursday night. Thursday night at 7:30, the Sneaky Flex. Man, they have been calling some start sits for you guys. If
and this week they gave you Devin Singletary and Brian Robinson also.
They're the most accurate analyst in club fantasy, without a doubt.
They're insane how good they are. Make sure you go over there and give them props when they come on at 7:30. At 8, directly after that, Dynasty After Party with Josh and Joel. Talking Dynasty, of course. At 9:30, the debut, the brand new, on the horizon, the new college football show.
Oh, that's right.
Chris Matastow and Brandon Hay from FF League winners and DLF. And then Friday at 9 a.m., DFS Academy with Ryan and Austin. And then Saturday morning, start, sit, different day with the great Joe Zolo and whoever else he wants to bring around. This week, he has Hudson Brown and Chris Allen, if I'm not mistaken, if that's correct.
That is correct, yeah.
And then, of course, you have me with these 2 idiots on Monday at 11 a.m. recapping what happened and what the hell went wrong on Sunday. Don't forget, Britt's waiver article comes out tomorrow morning, right around the same time the guys show. Wait, you guys are going a little bit late tomorrow. Again?
No.
Or is it 11 o'clock tomorrow?
We are back at 11. Everything's back to normal, yes.
All right. So that wraps that. Damn, that's a lot of freaking shows, Josh. I mean,
oh, my God.
I think the only day we don't have a show is Sunday. Do we?
Right.
We actually get a day of rest.
That's where we get our content.
Get a day of rest. I can't believe it. Oh, my Lord. All right, guys. Any last words for these idiots?
There's a question, but I'm going to be honest. I don't understand the question. So I think we're just
gonna, Craig, if you can reword that, we can answer it before we out or just type
we'll hit us on Wednesday with better wording or tomorrow. It's probably a waiver question anyway. So let's get out of here.
Probably. Let's get out of here. All right, fellas. Y'all have a great day. Enjoy. For Ryan at the Fantasy 5, for Josh at the One Hudsonian. We out.